Hey guys, a preview of the Randwick meeting coming up this Saturday. It's the 6th of August. Getting into this preview a little bit early because there has been a couple of days washed out, so will be a really severely rain affected track on Saturday, no doubt, with this weather not letting up, but I'm pretty confident they'll race. Rail in the true position will mean they'll be getting very wide here, you would imagine. Nothing will go near the rails, and it tends to affect the pace. They usually tend to walk a bit when you get sort of trucks this heavy, and you've got to take that into account. So, two staying races to start the day. The first, the 1800 metre fillies and mares benchmark 78. Got three main players, it looks like on paper. The top three with Defrost My Heart coming back from two 2000 metre runs of 2600 to 2400 back to the 1800, which is kind of interesting. The horses never won below 2000, but did look to be going extra well until last start, when it was a little bit one pace. That previous run may have taken a little bit out of it, and they've now given it 4 weeks off and a little freshened, so can't completely put the line through the top one, even with the big weight. Harlem Lady was perfectly ridden last week by Brenton Abdullah. If we just have a look at the end of that race, the problem with her is she just really doesn't find the line as well as some would hope. Having a bit of a drama here. Playing again. So, Harlem Lady obviously got the tempo here to suit. There seems to be something wrong with this replay. Basically, the thing I was trying to point out here was that Abdullah sort of cuddles her and kicks to her as long as possible, and then gets over them late. The horse she ran over were kind of distance queries in Frill Seeking and Light Share, and now she's facing another 300 metres and a heavy surface, which she does seem to handle but doesn't seem to relish, and I would say that makes her vulnerable here, considering how short she's in the betting. I think class-wise she's definitely in the race, but big query on the added distance. Whereas Firebird Flyer, who looked to be a bit of a tough horse to catch, despite having the 4 weeks between runs, has been trimmed up with another nice trial behind a couple of good horses here. This is Firebird Flyer back in the field. She just looks to be really relishing her racing and flying now. She never really is asked for a lot, and she trials well. Her two wins have both been with things against, not so much the maiden win, but last start, and the drop back to 1800 does look ideal off the 4 weeks with the trial. So for mine, she's the one to beat. The top one's got the class, but the drop back in distance is a bit of a query, and Harlem Lady probably has to step up a little bit. Really concerned about Erica's form at this sort of a distance. I thought it was an incredible ride in a very weak race the day that Blake Shin sort of carried her over the line. Then she went up against Esteban and got flogged. That's not a bad form reference, considering that so many have a similar outcome when they've raced Esteban lately, but I'd be very worried about her. It's an even tempo on paper, and I just think that Defrost My Heart and Firebird Flyer are the two that have the upside in this race. Race 2, the 2400 metres. And this is a tougher race for mine, with horses all kind of getting there up 400, up 600, up 400, up 500, up 500, up 200, up 500. Even though they've had a number of runs and most of the horses are fit, they're all going to be not struggling at the end of the trip, but they are a bit of a query. Major's the interesting one after being quite easy in betting on Wednesday, looking to accept and possibly back up on Saturday. He will appreciate that there is a bit of tempo in the race with races lie direct engaged, and he's the one that will be rock hard fit and will appreciate the slog if there happens to be one on the quick backup. The horses are all going fairly well and Get on the Grange braces. More Than Fabulous, Storm System, Thurston's been ridden upside down last start, and I'm sure it will be allowed to find its feet this time and lie direct with the blinkers reapplied. All well and truly in this race. Gun to my head, lie direct's probably the one I'll be interested in, but not too interested in the race, to be honest. If Major backs up, it's a definite interesting or query runner, and if Thurston gets out to crazy odds, I'm sure it's better than what it's shown, and it's probably the one that has the class on them if it's in the mood. Bit concerned about the 2400 for Get on the Grange braces and More Than Fabulous. Storm Systems, just not a horse and one. It's not one that really looks to be wanting to find the line in general. Race 3, and we get our first sprint race of the day, 1000 metre, benchmark 81. Kangaroo Joy's an interesting horse. It's first up and it's trialled quite well in a strong trial. I won't show the whole trial, but the sort of the start and the end. Just to show that she's come back well. She's in the yellow with the black cap in the middle, the gold, and she shows enough pace to hold the lead. It's a pretty soft run trial, and she's just allowed to sort of coast and looks to have come back well. She looks to have come back well. Obviously the 60.5, first up on a soft surface, which is something she hasn't had to deal with. She's had 2 first up runs, both on good tracks. She's actually never seen a track worse than a heavy 8, but so we've seen it shown as a 7, but looks to have been a little bit worse, and she did handle it that day and won the race, so it's not a big query. The wet, it's more the fitness levels at this level. At this time, that was a second up run, 1100, with a softish tempo. So the 2 others that I'm interested in are Last Witness, who's back in trip again, but is low flying and does look to be drawn ideally, and will appreciate a solidly run 1000, and also 3 sheets back in trip from the Cessnock Jungle Juice Cup to this race. So it's they just have a nice fitness base behind them. They're both good sprinters, I think, suited around this 1100 metre mark, which is how this race will be run. There does look enough pressure in the race from hot hit, highly geared, Don't Tease Me, Texan Ladder will be trying to kick up there somewhere, and I'm sure Kangaroo Joy won't be far away from that outside gate, so there does look enough pressure on paper to suit the run-ons in Last Witness and 3 sheets who are racing very well, and they're the 2 I'll probably be drawn to here. Race 4 is a bit of a diabolical highway for mine. Like the early favourites, the top weight and the Point Percy, first up from 150 day break and at the 1400 metres, and it's a 5-2 favourite, so I would be looking to bet around it. The others in the market are Tame and Explosive, Scene are 2 that are not really winners, that have got a huge amount of in their arsenal to put a race away, so I'm looking to bet around the 3 favourites. I think there's 2 horses going quite well. They are coming from much softer grade, and it is a step up, but they will be suited to Randwick. They're both hard fit, and they both look well placed, and another roughie as well that I'll have a look at. So Magic Zariz is the one coming off two 1300 metre wins its last 2 starts, 3 of its last 5, or 3 of its first 5 in its career. It is still in its first preparation, which is a bit of a query, but you are getting odds to compensate for that. The key to this horse is that he can take up a reasonable enough position in a race, and he's been strong through the line on heavy tracks his last 2 starts. So that was at Narromine. This is Gilgandra, and even though that's not form that you're really looking to find city winners out of, these highway races you basically get what you're given each week. They're of differing strength, and this week does look a little bit softer than normal, so I think this horse can measure up in a Magic Zeriz. And that was his last win. Both times he's coming off, solid tempo, so he's going well. The other horse that has a similar form line actually beat a Magic Zeriz first up. We'll have a quick look at it. That was the first up run on a heavy 10. It's back in the field here. The fence was off, and it takes the inside run. This is a Magic Zeriz coming through, obviously early in its preparation as well, but it's gone on to win 3 of its next 5 following this, so 2 of its next 4. So it's a good pointer to show how strong this race is. It was lucky to hold on there, but it was in the bias. It then backed up 2 weeks later in a highway race over the 1200 again on a softish surface. It's back here outside the eventual winner, Star Shaft. It's back here in the red and black with a cross hat. Takes its time to get to the outside. It was difficult to run on from wide here. Somebody's come out of this race and run well again. I'm sure Star Shaft is pretty strong form for this race, and he battles away, but he's entitled to be a little bit flat, if anything, here, due to that tough run first up over the 1200. But he grinds away, and he's just a little bit one-paced. He then went back to Gosford, which was just a totally unsuitable track for this horse. He seems like a big track horse. Drew an inside gate with the apprentice on for the first time, and we'll see. He's back to last already here, and really never stops getting into trouble throughout the race. It was a very soft tempo, so he was completely unsuited the way everything kind of went for him. This is him here trying to find a gap. Never really gets clear running. Trying to get to the outside of the Perry runner. And just in a bumping duel the whole way down the straight. Complete forgive run with the pace against track against for mine, and so he just sort of gets checked out of it a little bit late. That was a forgive run. Now up to 1400 around here. I think he can definitely improve significantly, and does look over the odds around the $15 mark. The other horse I have been following, which you can it was getting up in trip here, jumped in grade, and that was a diabolical tempo. They've gone out insanely fast over the 1750 at Muswellbrook, and it just obviously gassed the horse. He's had 5 weeks off. He's dropping back in trip, and I think he's a better horse than the $51 or $61 that's currently available, and that's high tech. I wish it had drawn any barrier but one, but Robert Thompson has been around long enough, and I'm sure that nothing will be really racing near that rail. So if he has any luck in the run, he can run a race here at big odds. So three horses that are over the 10-1 mark in a Magic Zeriz, High Tech, and Tudor Sunrise all look value in the highway. Missile Stakes, not much to report here. Capitalist did go to the trials, and he has sort of filled out a little bit in front, but he's not sort of come back a super horse. But in saying that, he does carry the 51.5 here. He's had the 2 trials where he's been pushed significantly enough to make sure that he's ready to go here fresh. We'll just watch that's him sort of in behind here, and this is El Divino. Two very promising colts in their own right, and they both sort of pair off. Interesting to me that this was El Divino's first trial, so it's obviously come back an improved horse and does look a significantly more developed horse, whereas Capitalist won't take as much to be, and I say he'd be ready on Saturday. He obviously trials well anyway, so this is his race to win, class-wise, but they won't be pushovers. There's a couple of tougher older gallopers. Obviously Rebel Dane, who doesn't win out of turn but does have a good wet track record. You'd think he would be presented very soft in the yard and will have improvement in him. So I'm probably not looking to him, especially from an inside gate. Unfortunately, Big Money draws inside again off a big effort in the Ramornie at his last start. Wouldn't it be nice? He's going quite well, and 1200 metres on a wet surface does suit him, and he's probably the one I'd play in Quinellas with Capitalist at the value. So if you're going to play, I couldn't steer you into the 150 Capitalist, but maybe a few exotics with Big Money. Wouldn't it be nice? And even Tycoon Tara looks like it's come back in good order for the new camp in Snowden from the Melbourne stable. So they're the three I'd be playing with there. Race 5, 6, the Rosebud, and this is a good little lineup. I'm a little bit surprised that Mediterranean, coming off a maiden win first up, a 2-year-old maiden, and it was a pretty slowly run race. It was dominant and does look to have come back a good horse, but he's had that the gap between runs, has trialled, and now comes to a open grade race and shows up quite a dominant favourite. I thought the other couple in the race had superior exposed form and a better lead up, but this is Mediterranean's trial coming down the outside here.
Long now coming to the 200 metres. Mediterranean starts to work home down the outside, and Stream to Win still there whacking away near the fence. 100 to go. San Pablo coming back to them. Mediterranean.
He's obviously trialled well here, but if you notice, like, a lot of horses are coming together, so that lead has come back. It might not be as good as it does look on paper, but you know, I'm not doubting the horse has strong ability. I'm just a little surprised that Thronum and Hair Trigger don't have more respect from the marketplace. I would expect one of those two to start favourite. This is their last start. Tango Rain's obviously, the form's looking very strong with it after it's come out and won the 2 in a row, and Golden Organic, who it beat its first start, has come out and won again since. So this is Thronum, misses the start. Hair Trigger's out here and dragged back to last. The other horse I want to keep an eye on in this race is Walk Right In. I think it's a nice horse. It's probably not the race for it, but it's also dragged back early and definitely can improve off its first up run. Bit of a strange ride from Tommy here, where he doesn't elect to hold the back of Tango Rain and allows the Kimmore runner and Inkling to cross him, and then starts to over race and do a few things wrong at that point. Not a lot happens to the turn, but you'll see here that sort of Tango Rain's controlled the tempo. He's not going slow, but he's definitely got plenty left. His main dangers in Thronum, Hair Trigger at back, and this is Walk Right In third last. Tango Rain has that buffer of the three horses that are not really there to allow him to kick away. Thronum gets into the clear, fair enough, to chase. Winner's full of running, and this is Hair Trigger coming down the outside with Walk Right In. I would assume that Thronum can really improve with a more aggressive ride out of the gates. I don't think it was suited the way he's handled that race in particular, and Hair Trigger's definitely capable of settling closer, even though it has drawn the wide gate, and it may not be relevant on Saturday with the conditions we're going to see. But I'd definitely rather him draw 9 than the Thronham draw 1. But I assume he'll kick up. So a good race, a few chances, and walk right in. Definitely knocked up there. Decorated Soldier, I believe that was, running 4th, going to Melbourne. It's an interesting horse. It's not a race in 3. There's some depth here. Pittsburgh comes out, and Euthred's not out of the race either. So I'd be betting around Mediterranean simply because it looks well and truly found in the market, and that Hair Trigger definitely looks the value for mine, and the one to beat. Thronham can improve sharply, and it will be hard fit. Walk Right In is capable of running a place for those playing exotics, and Euthred will be there throughout. So they're the ones I'll be throwing in my multiples, and a good little 3-year-old race. Race 6, 7, the mile, benchmark 78. Really tough race for mine. The horses that probably look to be going the best are definitely King's Officer, and Quick Defence is the one on the up sharply, and you've got to be scared of. So I'd say there's winning hopes to King's Officer going obviously very well. Savorik, who's had interference its last 2 starts and maybe raced a little flat last time, but definitely can bounce back and is a strong horse. Quick Defence, obviously. Dark Eyes will be up on the speed. Maybe a tough effort to hold off these runners today, but still will be right there. Bring Luck can definitely improve, and even Divine Style, who doesn't really look like a horse that is desperate to win races, but can definitely improve without surprising too much coming from the Wally Yard. So 3 main hopes probably for mine are in King's Officer, Savorik, and Quick Defence, with minor hopes to Dark Eyes. So Willie is always around the mark, but not one of my horses. Bring Luck and Divine Style. It's a pretty open race. Not looking to spend too much time on it because of that. There's really doesn't look a big edge there, and there shouldn't be a lot between them in betting, and there really isn't at this stage. I think it'll be a pretty keenly contested betting race. Race 8, and no early scratchings here. There does look a bit of speed with LA Cheval engaged and Typhoon Jolly. The return of Dixie Blossoms is probably the main talking point for this race. She's only had the 1 trial, was in the trial we looked at a little bit earlier. She's allowed to settle back here and work to the line under minimal pressure. She got to a mile, Group 3 in his first preparation and was highly competitive, beaten 3/4 of the length by Single Gaze, who obviously went on to win the Group 1 following that. I've got a feeling she's a top class mare, and whether it's shown today over the 1200 metres first up on a heavy track, it's just a matter of how hard they want to gas her. I'm sure she'll be allowed to find her feet and work home, and if she may still just be well too strong for them. If not, she's a horse definitely worth following through her preparation. Tree of Jesse's the other interesting horse. They resumed her at 1400, which I felt was a little bit ambitious for her sort of distance profile on the heavy track. She over-raced and was entitled to be beaten 10 lengths. Like it's a complete forgive run. She's been back to the trials, and Burning Passion, who's in the following race, is an interesting one to look at here. They've ridden her a lot quieter in the trial here. Tree of Jesse, she's back second last. Interesting here to note that these 2 horses in Think Aloud and Burning Passion are both hard fit horses, so this trial should be a strong pointer. And Tree of Jesse looks like she's really appreciating that, ridden back off the pace and finding the line. So Burning Passion and Tree of Jesse both trialled very well there for mine. And Tree of Jesse looks a definite play here, back to the 1200. Wide gate, and the soft going's obviously not a problem. So they're the main 2 for me. I think they stand out head and shoulders above the rest. LA Cheval and Typhoon Jolly will be giving them something to chase and battling away, but they may be just found out a little bit class-wise by these two, and Tree of Jessie around the $13 mark looks well and truly value at this stage, and I'd expect her to trim up a bit. Not sure what will happen with the price of Dixie Blossom. She's around the $4.40 mark, and that's not an unrealistic price, but still she has a few things against with the heavy and the big weight first up, even though she is definitely the class runner. Last race, and another solid betting affair. I'm a bit concerned about scratchings here with Chetwood drawing gate 1, and John O'Shea usually is a little bit hesitant to run his gallopers on these sort of tracks first up, especially from that unsuitable gate. Canny Essen also been scratched a few times, and maybe saved for another day here. Burning Passion's definitely, and O'Shea's got Haptic in the race as well too, who's capable of coming out, considering it's got the 63, might less the 2 for Taylor Marshall. So this race could change heavily in complexion. LA Cheval's already out, and be wary of that before taking any early prices here. Burning Passion's just low flying. If we look at that last run, they've already been, Grand Punto's come out and won out of the race. Powerline's come out and run well. Paint's come out and run well. There's some good form behind her there, and she flogged that field. She really did put them right away. She's gone back to the trials. Sorry, he's gone back to the trials since, and been dominant again, as we just saw. And that was just to trim him up and keep him going towards this. Obviously loves the wet and just ticks every box for mine. Does go up in weight, but actually goes back in grade from an 83 to a 78. So everything looks pretty solidly in line. He has found a pretty solid 78, mind you, with Chetwood and horses like Chetwood, Canny Essen and Secret Profit engaged, but he looks up to carrying them at this stage. He's really found a purple patch of form. I did want to have a look at this horse, Secret Profit, in its trial. One stable I don't mind backing them off one trial is the Hawk stable, and I like this horse in particular. He's here in the lead here in the blue. He allows the horse past him and comes to his outside. Interstellar was a very strong winner in town last week. He's obviously trialled well. I like the bit of intent he's shown with Secret Profit, and there's not much between them. Interstellar may have trialled marginally better, but I think Secret Profit will be ready to go. Hasn't seen a track this heavy, and it will be probably a little bit stretched at the end of it. 1200 heavy first up, but he's also been gelded, which is interesting. But he has a bit of class on his side here. Chetwood, if he does line up, is just a good horse in the making. 1,000 metre trial here. These are pretty fast horses in Volante behind, and he's just gapped them in the trial. Like you see these margins opening with horses pressured, so horses don't trial much better than that. Surprised that it's around the $7.50 mark, and definitely $6.50, $7 mark, and doubt that will exist come to race time if he does line up. But I think there's a big query on whether he will show up on race day. So just the summary of that race: in Burning Passion, clearly the horse to beat. I'd be surprised if Canny Essen and Chetwood show up, and I think Secret Profit's probably the danger if there is one first up. Chetwood can obviously be competitive if he does line up. So a pretty deep card. We're getting back to some strong fields over the next couple of weeks, and highlighted here by the Missile Stakes and the Rosebud. So hopefully a good day, and hopefully the rain stays away for the next couple of days to give the track every chance to improve a little bit anyway and make it a safe and solid racing surface. Thanks, guys.